Welcome to Stillwater Chronicles. Tonight, we settle into a story about a man who woke up in his own bedroom and found that someone else had already been living his life. There is something about waking up slowly that feels like surfacing from deep water. First there is darkness, then light, the thin gray kind that seeps in from behind curtains before the sun has quite decided to rise. Then sound, the ambient hum of a city that never fully sleeps. And then slowly, the awareness of where you are, or where you think you are. Junho opened his eyes. The ceiling was the right color, a soft, off-white, the particular shade that came from too many coats of cheap paint applied over too many years. He had stared at it through enough late nights and slow mornings to know it the way. You may know a face. The water stain near the corner, still there. The light fixture, a simple round disc of frosted glass, still there. The faint crack that ran like a river delta above the window. Still there. He exhaled. His bedroom, his ceiling, his morning. He sat up. The curtains were closed, but they were letting in that early gray, the color of something not yet decided. His desk sat against the far wall, his bookshelf beside the door, the small wooden chair in the corner where he always draped his jacket. Everything in its place, exactly as it should be. And yet, he wasn't sure why he kept his eyes moving, why his gaze drifted slowly from one corner of the room to the next, measuring, checking, the way you check a room when you sense something before you can name it. He looked at the windowsill. The succulent was there. His succulent, a small, stubborn thing in a white ceramic pot. The kind that required almost nothing, and somehow still looked as though it was thinking about dying. He had placed it on the left side of the windowsill. He remembered placing it there deliberately to catch the morning light. It was on the right side now. Junho blinked. He looked again. Still on the right side. He told himself he must have moved it at some point, without remembering. He told himself that was the kind of small, forgettable thing a person did all the time. He told himself it didn't matter. He reached for his phone on the nightstand. It was there, charging, the cable looped neatly beside it. He picked it up. It was heavier than he expected, slightly thicker. He turned it over in his hand and looked at the back. The case was the same color, a muted charcoal gray. But the shape of the camera lens was different. The arrangement of the buttons felt subtly wrong beneath his thumb, like a word in a familiar language that someone has mispronounced. He pressed the side button. The screen lit up. The wallpaper was a photograph he recognized. The Han River at dusk, a shot he had taken himself 3 summers ago. But when he pressed his thumb to the sensor, the phone unlocked. His thumbprint. His wallpaper. Someone else's phone. He set it down on the nightstand and looked at his hands. They were his hands. The same scar on his left index finger from a kitchen accident in university. The same shape to his knuckles. He turned them over, palms up, then down again. His hands. He stood. The floor was cool against his feet. The same laminate wood he had lived on for 4 years. He walked to the window and looked out at the street below. Seoul in the early morning. A convenience store still glowing. A delivery scooter, making its rounds. The distant shape of apartment blocks stacked against a pale sky. Familiar. Correct. His street. He turned back to the room. That was when he noticed what he was wearing. He had gone to bed in a gray t-shirt and dark joggers. He remembered this clearly. But he was standing in his room wearing a white linen shirt, neatly buttoned, the sleeves folded twice at the cuffs, and a pair of dark trousers. Clothes he owned. He recognized them, but he had not put them on. Junho stood very still. He looked at the mirror. The mirror was on the wrong wall. He was certain of this. For 4 years, his mirror had hung beside the bathroom door, on the right side of the room as you entered. A full-length thing he'd bought second-hand, and never quite hung straight. But it was there now, on the left wall, beside the bookshelf. Perfectly straight, perfectly level, as though it had always been there. He walked to it slowly. His reflection walked toward him, as reflections do. Same face, same early morning expression, the slight heaviness around the eyes that came from sleep. Same hair pushed up on one side where the pillow had pressed it. He looked like himself. He looked exactly like himself. He raised his hand. His reflection raised its hand. He turned his head. His reflection turned its head. He looked down at his clothes in the mirror. White shirt. Dark trousers. Neat. He breathed. He told himself, "You are Junho. This is your apartment. These are your things. Sometimes you move objects without remembering. Sometimes you change clothes in the night without being fully awake. Sometimes a mirror that has always hung at a slight angle looks different when it's been adjusted." These were explanations. Small, reasonable explanations. He went to the kitchen and made coffee. The coffee maker was his. The same chip on the handle. The same mineral buildup around the filter he kept meaning to clean. The coffee was the same brand. The mug was his. He stood at the kitchen window and drank it slowly, watching the city brighten by degrees, and felt the warmth of the mug in his palms, and told himself it was fine. By the time he had showered and gathered his things, he had almost convinced himself. He found his keys on the hook beside the door, exactly where he always left them. He picked them up. He opened the door. The hallway smelled like it always did. A faint trace of the neighbors' cooking, the dry air of a corridor that got no natural light. The floor tiles, the yellowish fluorescent overhead, the door across from his, with a small wreath that had been there since winter. His neighbor, Mrs. Bay, was coming out of the elevator with her shopping bags. She saw him and smiled. The same slightly distant, polite smile she had always given him. "Morning," she said. "Off to work already?" "Yes," he said. "Because what else do you say?" She nodded and moved past him. He stood by his door for a moment, listening to her footsteps, and told himself, "She recognized you. You are real. You are here." He locked the door and went to work. Everything on the way was ordinary. The subway smelled of metal and people. His transit card worked. His usual seat was taken, so he stood near the doors and watched his reflection slide across black tunnel walls. His face looked the same in those dark windows as it always did. Slightly blurred. Slightly less real than in proper light. He looked like a ghost of himself, which was, he thought, just what reflections always look like underground. At work, his colleagues nodded at him. His computer opened with his password. His inbox held emails addressed to him. Someone had left a coffee cup on his desk. Not his cup, but filled with the coffee he usually ordered, still warm. He sat down. He worked. The day passed the way days do, in small tasks and interruptions, and the slow tick of hours. He came home in the evening. The apartment was as he had left it. The succulent, still on the right side of the windowsill. The mirror, still on the left wall. He set his keys on the hook. He stood in the hallway for a moment, adjusting to the quiet. Then he walked to the bookshelf. He had not gone to the bookshelf in the morning. He had looked at it from a distance, a glance, but he had not stood in front of it. He stood in front of it now, running his eyes across the spines. His books, his small collection of objects, a stone he'd picked up on a beach somewhere, a pen his father had given him, a stack of notebooks, and then, on the third shelf, a photograph framed in a simple black frame. He did not own this frame. He did not remember placing it there, but it stood on the shelf as though it had always been there, as though the shelf had been arranged around it. He picked it up. A family, taken outdoors, a park or a garden, the greenery behind them soft and slightly blurred in the way of photographs where someone has thought to frame the moment well. An older man and woman, a younger woman, 2 children, one on either side, small enough to still look uncertain about standing still for photographs. And in the center of them, Junho. He was smiling. The particular smile of someone who is comfortable, not posed, natural. The kind that happens when you've looked this way at these people so many times that you don't have to think about it anymore. He was wearing a blue jumper. His hair was slightly shorter, but it was his face, exactly his face, turned toward the camera in a garden he had never visited with people he had never met. He set the photograph down. He set it down very carefully, the way you set down something that might break if you're not careful, though it was not the photograph he was worried about breaking. He sat on the edge of his bed. He looked at the window. The city was settling into evening, the streetlights coming on, the sky bruising from gray to a dark blue. His succulent on the right side of the windowsill, his mirror on the left wall, his clothes that he'd not put on. He thought about the photograph. He thought about the smile on his own face. That easy, unconscious smile. The smile of a person who belongs somewhere. He thought, what if that person is also waking up somewhere? What if that person is standing in a room very much like this one, looking at objects that are almost right? What if that person is also sitting on the edge of a bed in the evening quiet, trying to arrange the details of his day into something that makes sense? He lay down. The ceiling was the right color. The water stain in the corner, the crack above the window, the light fixture, frosted glass. His ceiling, his room. He closed his eyes. Outside, the city continued without him, its lights and its noise, its indifferent ongoing motion. Somewhere in it, perhaps, someone was also closing their eyes. Someone with his face, learning the shape of a life. that fit him almost perfectly. Junho lay in the almost dark and listened to the city. He did not get up to move the succulent back. He was not entirely sure anymore which side it was supposed to be on. Thank you for listening to Stillwater Chronicles, where even the smallest things, a plant on a windowsill, a mirror on the wrong wall, a smile in a photograph you don't remember taking, can carry a story. If this stillness stayed with you, if the quiet unease settled in gently and refused to leave, then let it remain a little while longer. Some questions, after all, were never meant to be answered. They were only ever meant to be carried. Rest now, and don't look too closely at the photographs on your shelves.